been having a wave of COVID nostalgia lately. Not for the whole pandemic. That was not fun at all. Like working from home and people dying and things like that. But mainly because this time last year I was just coming off of my bout with COVID-19 and just coming down with that, and was not very fun at all. But I'm nevertheless oddly nostalgic for it because it was like the first week of summer, like right after school let out, and I just left my job teaching, and I was just excited to have like this whole summer ahead of me and just doing all the things that you think about doing in summer, just kind of relaxing and enjoying just kind of slacking around the house and things like that. And all these things that you typically say as a teacher that you're going to do in the summer when the kids are out and you don't have a job to go to every day. And usually it does not end up working out that way. Especially as a teacher when you get out of school for the summer and everybody suddenly knows that you're free. They ask you to like do favors. Like my mom called me and it's like, can you come and help me clean out the storage unit? Can you come and like select all of these clothes of yours that I've collected since you were in kindergarten and tell me what you want and don't want? My mom somehow is still trying to get rid of clothes that I wore in junior high. And yeah, like summer as a teacher kind of has a funny way of filling up. But what happened is that last year, school got out, and like that night, the last day of school, I started feeling kind of under the weather and kind of groggy and just not my general cheerful self at the end of the school year. And I woke up the next day and just like felt really like even worse, and I was thinking about it. I was like, oh my gosh, because my school had a mask mandate ever since we had come back from quarantine. So for a year and a half, we were all wearing masks. And then in the very last week of school, it got lifted. And the very last day of school, we had this field day where all the kids were playing activities. They were crawling all over each other. I was a team captain, and I was kind of having to, help facilitate the games. And so I was like making constant contact with kids, and, none of us were wearing masks, and we just were being very reckless. And sure enough, I had a leftover COVID test that I thought was just going to go in like my little home museum junk drawer of just stuff that I bought but never needed. And my wife Jessica, she gave me the COVID test, and I had it. And I went down and got tested the next day at a Walgreens, and it came back positive. So for the next week, I just was laid up in bed. Really, only for like the first 2.5 days was I laid up in bed, and on like the afternoon of the third day, I think I just like took a nap and I woke up and I was just fine all of a sudden. And really for the rest of the week, it was just kind of quarantined by protocol, by orders. But yeah, it was like an entire week though where I actually got to have the kind of summer that I envisioned for myself, just like slacking around the house and just watching any cruddy movie that just came on television. I remember I watched Speed 2 Cruise Control, where they're on the cruise ship. And like Willem Dafoe is, I don't know, I think he's like sick in that movie. He like puts leeches on his body to he bloodlets. And I don't know, he feels like really mad that the cruise ship company kind of took his technology that he had invented and ran with it and cut him out of it and didn't give him money for it. So Willem Dafoe is now hijacking the cruise ship. Yeah, that's what happens in that movie. I turned it off before the end of the movie. I watched a lot of movies during COVID, but Speed 2 was one of those movies that I didn't finish. It was too bad even for COVID. I hadn't seen it since I think I rented it on videotape when it first came out into the movie theater or on into the video stores. So yeah. But yeah, that first week of summer last year, a year ago this week, I was just I had COVID. It was not a fun experience, but I did just get to like be lazy and justify my laziness, and nobody could ask me to do anything, and I didn't have to go out and run errands or anything like that. Yeah, that was nice. I sat there. I think I read like 3 books that week. I read what did I read? I read like 2 books by Joseph Conrad. I read Lord Jim and Nostromo. Those are my 2 COVID books that I remember reading. I think I read another one, but I can't remember what it was. Oh yeah, I read Cannery Row by John Steinbeck. Yeah, these were just books that were like laying around my house that I had for a while, and just picked them up and read them, and it was just a really enjoyable experience just to sit there at the house all day long and not have to do anything, and not feel guilty about it. Sometimes when you just like slack around the house, you kind of feel guilty about it sometimes. And it's okay to occasionally, but too much of it, like a whole week, Yeah, so I'm nostalgic about that this week on a day like today, Saturday, where I'm kind of having to run errands but at the same time, I do not want to go back to it. Like a lot of things that we're nostalgic for. It's kind of fun to think back on it, but we don't want to be back there a lot of the times. I think a lot of us are a lot more happier with our present lives than we kind of want to admit. It's like we think back to being like young, like children. Like right now, I'm sitting on a porch in Homewood, Alabama. This is the Midnight Citizen Show, by the way. I'm your host, Mike Booty. But yeah, it's like a Saturday afternoon, and I'm sitting on a porch in Homewood, Alabama, and I'm looking across the street at the park, and there's like the community pool over there, and all these kids are kind of happy and running around, and their parents are there paying for everything. Sometimes we want that. We want to go back to those times in our lives, right, where we just had total innocence and freedom. But then we think about it, and it's like we really didn't have that much freedom, because if you wanted something, you had to pay for it, or you had to wait for it. You couldn't pay for it. What am I talking about? You have to pay for everything. But, if you wanted something, you had to wait for your birthday or Christmas, or maybe for like your parents to be in a good mood or something. You had to get a summer job, and you had to go to bed at a certain time. At least I did. You couldn't eat your dessert until you had your greens. All these typical things. Yeah. But yeah, like just like last year, I'm nostalgic for it, but I do not want to go back to it. I don't want to be sitting in my apartment for an entire week feeling sick. Even though I did get to just like not feel guilty about it. I think that's what I'm nostalgic about. It's just not feel guilty about hanging out. So, yeah. So yeah, this is the Midnight Citizen Show. It's really midday right now. It's about 10 minutes after 2, and I'm sitting on the porch of the Briary tobacco shop here in Homewood, Alabama, after a morning full of running errands, and kind of working a little bit. Like I went out and, as I said, I haven't been really working a regular job for the last year since I left my job teaching. I've just been doing a bunch of random things. I've been in graduate school finishing up a master's in English, and I started, so I get a stipend for that. That's like my usual, my regular income, if you can call it that, is I get a stipend every month for a few $100s. And in exchange, I tutor students in the University Writing Center. You know, they come in with like papers they want to write and need help with for their classes, and I kind of help them with that. But yeah, other than that, just like extra income is like delivering food mainly. I was like out today kind of delivering food for Grubhub and Uber. And I got this new car a few weeks ago, which is will now allow me to go out and actually to give rides for Uber, to actually pick up people and take them places. I'm still going back and forth on whether or not I want to do that. I like delivering food because you're just by yourself in your car and you can like listen to music, and it's also like, you know, it's not dangerous. I mean, it can be a little bit dangerous. I think there was like somebody, like an Uber driver in Florida, who was like just delivering food to somebody's house, and just like he rang the doorbell and somebody opened up the door and pulled him inside and just mutilated him. It was just terrible. Yeah, food delivery can sometimes be kind of dangerous, but I would think picking up people and putting them in your car and taking them places at their request, that would be even more. So if I were to drive for Uber, like I would have some ground rules. I would kind of know where I'm delivering or where I'm picking people up. I wouldn't just be going way out to like West Birmingham, which is pretty much like right now per capita wise is like the most dangerous place on the planet. On the civilized planet, I guess, in the first world, is like West Birmingham. Just the skyrocketing murder rate right now. It's like right there with Baltimore, and I think it's Newark, New Jersey. But yeah, like up until a few weeks ago, driving for Uber would not be an option for me because I had an older car. I had a 2004 Honda Accord, which I love that car, but I couldn't drive it for Uber because they require you to drive a car that's like no older than 15 years. So last I checked, it's 2023, and 2004 was 19 years ago. So, but with my new car, which is a 2015 Hyundai Sonata Hybrid, I'm able to drive for Uber. And so, yeah, today I had to go and make an appointment. I was going to go and get my my vehicle inspected. You have to get your vehicle inspected. And I would have had to wait 2 hours, so I just made an appointment for tomorrow morning at 9:30. So I'm going to go and get my vehicle inspected, and like I sent Uber my insurance and my registration for my car and everything. And yeah, hopefully by tomorrow I should be good to go. If I want to go and pick up people for Uber, I can do that. So yeah. So I went and did that. And yeah, and I was just over here next to the Briary Tobacco Shop, and just decided to sit down on the porch here. I haven't been over here in a while to the Briary. They're normally not open on Saturdays. They were open today because of they had the bi-monthly meeting of the Central Alabama Pipe Club. So I walked in the lounge of the Briary here, and there was like a big old lounge, you know, full of about 15 people, you know, like smoking pipes and drinking whiskey and scotch and everything. And They all greeted me when I came in. They didn't know my name, but it was very much like walking into Cheers or something. And they invited me to sit down. I was like, oh, I don't have a pipe. And they're like, oh, that's okay. You don't need a pipe. Just, grab a cigar and sit down. And they said they offered me to, like they said, make a sandwich, pour a drink. And it looked like a lot of fun, honestly. I would have liked to sit down with them, but I was kind of interested in just, there wasn't any place to sit. And I also just kind of wanted to, come out here and record a podcast. I recorded my first podcast last week, first podcast since like February, and I enjoyed it. I hope you did too if you listened to it. If not, you can go back and check it out. So, yeah, I wasn't recording for a very long time because it was just, I was in school and it was just too busy. It was too crazy. And just, I really want to try and keep recording as long as I can. But I got myself into this groove where I was like recording live shows. I was in the studio and actually having to really carve out some time and premeditate it every week when I was going to sit down and do a show. And I was just really enjoying the format of the show and just the live old school radio feeling of just sitting in in front of a mixing board and just being able to play music. And I was just enjoying it a lot, but it just got to be too much for my schedule. So I just stopped doing it, even though I shouldn't have, but I did. But yeah, I mean, things aren't necessarily slowing down a little bit, but I just have to kind of accept they're never going to slow down. But I do want to keep doing shows, This show I've been doing off and on since 2010. I do want to keep doing them, so just really where these days, wherever I find myself, whenever I find myself, I'm just going to try and record a show. So I had a few hours here to just sit down and record while I had a cigar. So I need to relight this thing. It's tough to do a podcast and smoke a cigar at the same time because cigars have ways of going out. So. Yeah, I have a pipe. I could have joined those guys in there to smoke a pipe with them. But I've never been able to get into pipes. I really want to because the good thing about smoking pipes is that, well, for one, they smell really nice. You can actually smoke a pipe around people and they will not be offended like when you smoke cigarettes or cigars. Cigars are really great for the person who's smoking them, but really not for anybody. And that's really why I've been cutting down on cigars lately. I'm trying to just get down to just maybe 2 a week, which I know sounds like a lot to some people. Like to my friend Dave, who only smokes maybe 2 a year. But for me, it's quite. I talked about this on the show last week. How really during quarantine in 2020, I started upping my cigar consumption because there was just so little to do around the house, and I was getting cabin fever so easily, and I just wanted to step outside and just have cigars, and I would order them online, and that just really was not very good for me. So. But yeah, one of the reasons why I've been cutting down is because smoking cigars at home has just not been enjoyable. Because I live in an apartment building and I have kind of a rotating group of neighbors, and I've had some neighbors who have been there for quite a while now who just have really let me know that they do not like me smoking cigars. This one girl just flat out told me, please do not smoke in front of my building, in front of my door anymore, and of course, I respected those wishes. I don't want to be like a bad neighbor or anything. But yeah, I kind of carved out then this niche, niche around the other side of the building, around the back. I put like a little table up, and it's kind of nice, just making like a little courtyard back there. And then this like other woman comes out and just tells me that I'm right below her window, and the smoke is getting in there, and so that was just not fun. And so really the only place now that I can go and smoke a cigar in my building is like in the courtyard, in the front of the building. And I just don't like it there. I mean, it's like there's constant traffic in and out. You know, my neighbors coming and going, and it's not a fun, enjoyable experience. So really, like whenever I have a cigar now, I just want to like be in cigar-friendly areas, you know, like on the porch of a tobacco shop is a pretty cigar-friendly area. You know, where my friend's got a backyard. He lives like 2 blocks away from me, and I can go and have one over there, which is nice. It's done. Take it easy. So yeah, just having a cigar is much more enjoyable to me because rather than having a pipe, even though people enjoy the smell of pipes, there's something about pipes that I just have never been able to get. I think for one, like pipes, everybody used to smoke pipes. It's really a bizarre thing. Pipes were generally seen as like the blue collar version of cigars. You know, people used to have pipes a lot more than cigars laying around. And in fact, I remember when I was a kid, my dad smoked cigarettes all the time, but he also enjoyed pipes. And my first experience with tobacco, actually consuming tobacco, was when I was about 5 or 6 years old, and my dad just had a pipe laying on his end table next to his recliner, next to his Lazy Boy. And I picked it up and I lit it, and it was terrible. I hated it, and I coughed. Yeah, he used to have them, and now like almost nobody, you will almost see nobody at all smoking a pipe anymore unless they're like an enthusiast. Whereas, you know, cigars have become just a lot more universally acceptable. Yeah, but I don't know, just with pipes, I think like my thing with them is that they require constant attention. They really do. It's almost like they're the lavender plants of tobacco or something. Or they're well, tobacco is a plant, but I don't know what I was trying to get at. But they constantly require attention when you're smoking them. You know, you have to kind of constantly keep them lit. And they also go really fast. I like when I look at a cigar, I can actually see time passing. You know, you smoke the cigar and you kind of see it going down, and you're like, okay, I've got like 45 minutes left. I've got 30 minutes left, 20 minutes left. Right? Whereas with a pipe tobacco, you can kind of see time passing, but really it goes a lot faster. It burns a lot faster. And you also can kind of, since pipe tobacco is so much cheaper than cigars, you're kind of constantly, refilling it. And packing a pipe is an art form. It's very difficult to correctly pack a pipe. It does take some care and attention, just to put it in there and tamp it down, and also just like correctly smoking a pipe. There's a lot of different methods of smoking a pipe, and it's a lot more, to me. It's like smoking a pipe is nice, but it's a lot more stressful, It's adding stress to something that's supposed to be relaxing. And I will have a pipe under very specific circumstances, like when I don't have a cigar. So. So yeah, I'm just what other ways am I making money other than delivering food? Um, yeah, I was tutoring students this year, like privately tutoring. I was working with a couple of students who were in school in San Francisco. It's so bizarre. I've tutored a lot of students over the years, but the most constant ones that I've tutored for the last year both reached out to me separately from two different schools, and they both go to like schools in San Francisco. I don't know how that happened. Of the whole big map, I was working with these kids from San Francisco. So they're out for the summer, so I'm not working with them right now. But yeah, this week though, I did my annual teaching for summer camp. I've been teaching summer camp just at various places for about the last 8 years. Yeah, for the last few years, I've been teaching summer camp at the school where I was teaching. I was working with students on writing. It was like an academic summer camp, so students would come in and I would have to try and get them excited about writing during the summer. And I didn't go back and do that this year, of course, because I'm no longer teaching at that school. But this week I've been teaching at a theater summer camp that I started working at with my wife, Jessica, who's an actress. Had been teaching there for a couple of years at the summer camp where she was teaching, kids like an acting for Shakespeare class. She would give them like various monologues for Shakespeare, and they would rehearse and perform them. And a few years ago they needed they thought that they had this idea that they were going to get students to write plays. And Jessica recommended me, and like I'm not a playwright. I've never. I mean, I've written like sketch comedy. Many years ago, I was with a sketch comedy group here in Birmingham, Alabama, called Happy Nowhere. We actually reunited last summer for a show. The first one we had done in almost 20 years. And that was a lot of fun, but I didn't write any sketches for it because I hadn't written a sketch in so long. We basically just did like a lot of rehashed material from our old days. And that's kind of like writing plays. I mean, you're writing for the stage, but really I think the reason that they hired me is because it was kind of like a sneaky way of getting the students to spend their summers actually doing something academic, kind of improving certain skills. There's this been this kind of general anxiety among parents in recent years that of the summer slide, or the summer melt. Kids, like summer vacation was like this is like a lot of fun and everybody really enjoys it, but it's really not good for kids to just take 2.5 months off from learning. And there's been more of a push for year-round schools where kids kind of have the equivalent of a summer break, but it's spread out throughout the year. So like they'll take like a 3-week spring break or something like that, and then they'll come back and they'll go to school through like late June and then take another smaller break for a couple of weeks. And I think that was the thing with the theater camp, is they were trying to appeal to parents who wanted to send their kids to a camp where they could kind of work on their reading and writing skills. And so I think that's where playwriting came in. And so, yeah, I've been teaching playwriting at this camp now for about the last 8 years. Um, the first, it used to be like a month-long camp, but now it's only 2 weeks. So I taught summer camp, playwriting this past week, and then this week will be the last week coming up. So yeah, it's always weird to work in a theater camp because I'm not a theater guy. I've never been into acting on stage or musical theater, and like I like some musical theater, but mostly I find it kind of obnoxious. And even though my wife does musical theater kind of for a living, she knows this about me. And I think my wife kind of has a certain level of disdain, just like I do, for musical theater tropes, especially like the last 20 or 30 years. This desire to turn every single movie that made like $5 at the box office into a musical into a musical. Like Legally Blonde the play, or Elf the play, or the Addams Family the play, Hairspray the play, all this stuff. The Lion King. I saw The Lion King, actually. It was okay. It was actually pretty good. But yeah, it's just kind of like musical theaters, just kind of a place where, creativity kind of goes to die these days, I think. Yeah, no, I like a lot of older shows. I do, and some newer shows as well. Musical theater. I don't know. I mean, everybody's kind of fallen in love with that Hamilton play. The kids love Hamilton. They always want to perform something from Hamilton. It's whatever you want to say about it, whatever your feelings are about Hamilton. It is pretty impressive that it's gotten kids that I've seen as young as like 8 years old to be interested in, the first Secretary of the Treasury of the United States. It's pretty interesting. So, but yeah, it's always just so weird for me, not a theater guy, to be teaching in a summer camp that's just surrounded by musical theater, by kids who want to be on stage. And there's like a certain personality that musical theater people have that's very like bombastic and just kind of over the top and it's just a production when you're in the room with a lot of these people, and my personality really differs from them quite a bit. I can be bombastic and kind of over the top sometimes, I guess. But it's like when you're in any kind of room, I think there's like a certain economy of energy. And you can always feel, bankrupt of energy when you're in a room and, there's like a ton of energy that's not being used up, like think about like being at a funeral or something like that. Like the idea of being in a funeral can be so much worse if there's just not at least one person in the room who's taking up some of that energy, who's going around talking to people, who's maybe trying to lighten the mood a little bit by telling some funny stories about the corpse. Right. Yeah. I mean, and likewise, if somebody is in the room and they're taking up all that energy, and they're using all of the energy in the room and they're sucking it all up, it leaves very little for others to feed on. And so they can get very tired. And that's very much how I felt like kind of yesterday, like after summer camp. The kids had this little performance that they did for their parents. And then afterwards, my wife and I and a bunch of the counselors and teachers, we all went to dinner at a Mexican restaurant. And it was just being at a big, long table full of a bunch of, theater people, talking about musical theater and, just being very loud and everything. And it's okay. I'm not, judging them for that or anything, but it just like was making me feel so tired, just completely. I had no energy to feed on because they were taking it all up. And in a way that was kind of nice because I was hungry and I just wanted to eat something. So, how you doing?
Good, how about you?
Good, man. I kind of like that term, economy of energy. I just came up with that. No, there's like the Department of Energy, and they're sort of responsible for kind of like regulating how energy flows in this country. Through like the power lines and the pipelines and things like that. And yeah, if it all goes to one place, then there's somebody out there who doesn't have any gas or any electricity. So yeah, it's important to recognize an appropriate distribution of energy in social situations. And just think about like the best times you've had with your friends or your family is when everybody's together and there's not like a single person who is taking up all that energy. It's distributed equally. Everybody's kind of off having their own conversations. Everybody's like contributing to the conversation. It doesn't always have to be like that. Sometimes you want to be in a room and you just kind of want to relax and enjoy yourself, and you want to hear everybody else taking up all the energy. Yeah. This was a kind of an interesting week to be teaching summer camp because we were at Mountain Brook High School. And Mountain Brook was in the news this week quite a bit. It was in the national news again. Because you may remember the story from about, 18, 19 years ago. Very long time ago. This girl, this senior from Mountain Brook High School went on vacation down to Aruba. I think was it Aruba? And she went on, it was like a senior trip or it was spring break or something. And she went missing. And they never found her. And this one guy who was accused of foul play in her disappearance, this guy named Jorn Vandersloot. Is that like Norwegian, I think? He's from Norway. He was the number one suspect. And they never found her, and I guess they never had enough evidence to convict him. So yeah, her name was Natalee Holloway. And years later, he ended up going to prison because he was found guilty of killing somebody. And I don't know the full story. I'm sure you can just Google it. It's on any number of news outlets right now. But yeah, he was in some prison, I think like in Sweden, or I don't know where he was, but he was in some prison. And he started reaching out to Natalee Holloway's mom and essentially saying, like, give me this much money and I'll tell you what happened to her. And so this guy was like a spectacular piece of shit. And this week he was extradited to Alabama, down to the courthouse just a few miles away, to stand trial for extortion. And it was just a big story. So yeah, this week we were at Mountain Brook High School, and news vans started showing up because I guess they need like a backdrop other than the courthouse. And so yeah, like Court TV showed up, and I didn't see them, but apparently like this guy and kind of like slicked back hair and like an expensive suit was there. I guess he was like the court TV correspondent or something like that. But so yeah, I'm not sure exactly what happened this week. I guess he was extradited to the United States, and yeah, this is just the news story that just doesn't quit. Because it was like the biggest news ever, because it was like Natalee Holloway disappeared, and her mom became like this big national celebrity, and kind of like almost like John Walsh. John Walsh is longtime host of America's Most Wanted. Just was inspired. It suddenly became like this national celebrity. Because his son was killed. We actually found out that his son was kidnapped, abducted, and killed by the serial killer Otis Toole, who is the inspiration from the Tom Towles character in that movie Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer. But yeah, John Walsh became this national spokesperson for hunting down fugitives. And so Natalee Holloway's mom kind of became the same thing. But yeah, it's like this guy is it's just like I think like the kind of crux of the story, the color of the story, is that you don't mess with like a rich white woman from Mountain Brook, Alabama. It's like I was talking about how West Birmingham is like one of the worst places in the civilized world for crime. Mountain Brook is like just one of the most elite wealthiest places in the United States, and people there have just like endless amounts of resources to go after scumbags that abduct their children. So yeah, so that happened this week while I was teaching summer camp. So yeah, it says Jorn Vandersloot, suspect in Natalee Holloway case, pleads not guilty to extortion wire fraud charges. This is from ABC News. Jorn Vandersloot, the main suspect in the unsolved 2005 disappearance of American teenager Natalee Holloway, appeared in court in Birmingham, Alabama on Friday, pleading not guilty to federal extortion and wire fraud charges. Holloway's mom, Beth Holloway, looked on as Vandersloot, who is accused of trying to extort her, walked into the courtroom. Vandersloot, a Dutch citizen, chose not to use an interpreter in court, saying, "My English is perfect." Beth Holloway's attorney said in a statement Friday, "Today's a victory for Beth and everyone who has offered their well wishes, prayers. More victories are sure to come." Natalee Holloway's father, Dave, said in a statement Friday, "While filled with mixed emotions, I'm confident that today was an important step toward accountability and hopefully justice." So he's been serving a 28-year sentence, it says, for the 2010 murder of 21-year-old Stephanie Flores. Yeah, I mean, they're like suspecting him of being a serial killer. It's just insane. So, yeah, he was just trying to, like, extort the girl's mom for information about... It's like, it reminds me of that movie, The Vanishing, which I think is a French movie from the early 90s, where this guy, like, abducts... These two people are on a vacation, and the wife goes missing. And the husband is just distraught, and he just cannot live his entire life just wondering, not knowing what happened to his wife. And so one day he gets a mysterious phone call for this man who claimed that he's responsible for her murder. And so he says to him, you know, I'll let you know what happened to her, but the catch is you have to go through the exact same thing that she did. And if you've never seen the movie, it's one of those movies I never want to see it again. It's a great movie, but it's one of those movies that I never want to see again. It's not like violent, but just the emotional torture of that movie, the emotional terror is just, it's too much to take for me. So yeah. What else is going on this week? And other Alabama news. I don't know if you've seen on HBO. Of course, you don't call it HBO anymore. It's now Max. There's this documentary that came out, I think, last week called Bama Rush, which is about the sorority system at the University of Alabama. And how it essentially robs, you know, the kids of identities and all that good stuff. Of course, I was very interested in seeing this documentary because I did go to the University of Alabama. I graduated there in 2005, actually, when the Natalie Holloway thing happened. No, wait, 2006 is when I graduated. That's right, from Alabama. But yeah, I was very much exposed to the fraternity sorority system down at Alabama. It's not something I at all wanted to be a part of. I mean, for one, like, going to college is already expensive, but on top of that, joining these fraternities is just a whole other level of tuition. I don't know what it was like when I was down at Alabama, but if I wanted to join like a fraternity today, it's something like $15,000 a year. And to join a sorority, it's like much, much more. And it just seemed like kind of goofy and like a waste of time to join a fraternity, to join the Greek system. Because you're kind of like, if you're not paying for it and you're not like doing all these activities, then like you're not entitled to have these friends, you know, because they all very much stick to each other. And I'm not against Greek life. Like my mom and my dad were very much a part of Greek life when they were in college. And like my older sister, Melissa, was in a sorority when she was in college at Montevallo. And of course, it ended up actually kind of destroying my sister's life at Montevallo, just in terms of, you know, like tanking her grades and everything. Because like just being in these organizations is so exhausting and so taxing on your life. You really do have to be on top of it in order to like go to everything that they like, all the social events that they want you to do, and all the fundraisers that they have you attend, and that you really just don't have much time at the end of the day for school, for academics, which is the whole reason you go down there, right, to college. And yeah, my sister Melissa, you know, ended up flunking out of Montevallo University, and she had to go to community college to get her grades back up, and then she ended up going down to the University of Alabama, where she did not join a sorority. And she just ended up studying all the time, and she ended up graduating on the president's list and getting a job after that she still has to this day. This was about 21 years ago that she graduated. So that's a success story. But yeah, this documentary, Bama Rush, I was interested to see because just kind of University of Alabama has a very controversial Greek system. And this is something that the documentary goes into. There's this thing down there that I only heard about tangentially because people really don't talk about it too much. They're kind of too afraid to. It's called the Machine. And, it sounds so silly, but it very much is like these private clubs that they have at Ivy League institutions, like the Phoenix Club or the Skull and Bones Club. And a lot of the times these like private organizations that are like they're Greek systems within the Greek system. They're like sororities and fraternities within sororities and fraternities. A lot of, former presidents, went through these systems. Like, of course, George W. Bush was part of the Skull and Bones Society at Yale. And it's kind of seen that, like, if you are in these elite institutions or these elite organizations, you have these lifelong connections to power that you otherwise would not have. And so they're very highly coveted, but also very highly controversial because everybody wants to believe that we live in a fair and just society where right and wrong is really what matters and not connections, right? But everybody knows that, the game is rotten. And old Black Joe's still picking cotton. That's how it goes. Everybody knows. Is that Leonard Cohen? But yeah, the Machine is not necessarily plugged into national politics the way that you might get at a lot of these Ivy League universities, but it is plugged into state politics quite a bit. And a lot of the people who are in the Machine end up going on to run the state of Alabama, which is very famous in the Union for being stuck in the past, for kind of refusing to let go of certain segregationist policies. And the Machine has been linked to cross burnings in like the 1980s in front of black fraternities and sororities, and they've been linked to intimidation practices for, essentially what they do is they get together, the Machine gets together, so it's like a select group of people within the university's blue chip Greek organizations, and they get together in secret. Nobody knows when these meetings happen, where they happen, but they get together in secret, and they essentially decide who is going to be elected to the Student Government Association. And then these representatives of the Machine go back to their voting blocks in their respective sorority and fraternities, and they tell everybody how to vote. And they end up, manipulating student government. And this kind of sounds innocuous because what's the big deal with student government? What are they going to what are they responsible for? Certain, menu items in the school commissary or whatever. But, no, apparently they do kind of decide, once again, who gets to be in power, who gets to make decisions. And a lot of these people go on to graduate the University of Alabama and go on to have like very powerful positions in a state that has not amended its constitution since 1902, that, gerrymanders voting lines along, certain rich and poor demographics. And yeah, it's been very controversial for a very long time. And it's something that everybody knows happens, but nobody wants to admit. It's like an open secret. Like, everybody knows that the Machine exists, but nobody can do anything about it because, like, how do you kind of regulate just a bunch of people voting in a way that just they're kind of told to vote? So. And, yeah, there was there's been some instances like in recent years where like
What'd you bring us? Oh, picking up some. Oh no.
the mailman coming by the Briary. There's been some incidents like in the past 30 years or so where like some candidates have been able to beat the machine by just rallying votes against them, and so it's like really like how do you disband the machine, because it on the surface seems kind of fair. They're just trying to rally votes against the other candidate who's also rallying their own votes, and whoever has the most votes at the end of the day wins. How's it going? So it's really not like an illegal organization. They just do really shady things. So yeah, Bama Rush like covered all of this information kind of briefly. Mostly, it just focused on. Apparently, like a couple of years ago, there was like this big TikTok trend with the hashtag Bama Rush, and everybody was on TikTok following these girls that were just. They were hiring consultants, like sorority consultants, to help them answer applications and help them like blend in, and all this stuff. And these girls are all going into these sororities knowing that they're going to be surrendering any last semblance of individual identity they have, just because like going into college is just a very nerve-wracking experience for a lot of kids. They're going to these places where they don't know anybody. They're living away from home. They're going to have all this independence, and they really don't want it. So joining a sorority is a way to like bypass all that, where you instantly join a club that's like telling you what to do and who to be around, who to hang out with, what classes to take. And they just go to like incredible extremes. And of course it's very much a classist system, because whoever has the more money and the more connections stands a better chance of getting into these sororities. And these sororities, like they perform extensive background checks on their candidates. They go into their social media. They, it's like based on how many followers they have. Like, I mean, how likely are they to, be chosen based on like their influencer brand. A lot of these girls are like encouraged to have social media branding, and so it really is and throwing at the end of the day like the idea of college to the wayside. Why do you go to college? So that you can hopefully get trained in something that's going to make you marketable, and allow you to perpetuate an economy. But yeah, this is the sororities aren't really thinking about that, it seems like. So, it wasn't really a good documentary at the end of the day. All these things I already kind of knew, not just from having gone to the University of Alabama as a student all those years ago, but just because I think everybody sort of knows what Greek life is all about, which is just, kind of making these exclusionary enclaves in college campuses. Like, I think everybody knows that. And yeah, the documentary does this weird thing that I hate it when documentaries do this, where the filmmaker turns the camera around on themselves and makes the story a part of their own journey. That just simply never works. It never works for me. And it some people may like it, but the filmmaker in this case can't remember her name. It's like Rachel Greist or something like that. But she starts talking about 20 minutes into the documentary about how like she turns the camera on herself and she's a bald woman. And she's talking about how she has alopecia. And of course we live in like a post slap society where everybody now knows what alopecia is. You know, because of that big slap that happened at the Oscars a couple of years ago. Remember when Chris Rock got up and started making fun of Will Smith's wife, Jada Pinkett, for being bald? And he's like, are you going to be in G.I. Jane 2? Will Smith gets on stage and slaps him. And we know now because she had alopecia, which is like this hair loss illness. You know. So yeah, now she doesn't have to explain, this woman in the documentary, what alopecia is. We now know what it is because of the we live in a post-slap society. where before the slap, alopecia wasn't really a common thing that a lot of people talked about. So maybe we should be thanking Will Smith for that. I don't know. But yeah, like this woman who looks like G.I. Jane putting the camera on herself, and she's talking about how, like, you know, she always, when she was a kid, had to wear a wig. She never wanted to let anybody see her without her wig. She didn't want anybody to know that she had alopecia. And so she was constantly trying to blend in, and she was trying to relate her personal story to all these girls who were trying to, you know, just against all odds to shun their individual identities to try and fit in, to not let anybody see beneath them to who they really are. Okay. And yeah, again, it's like, that's an interesting idea, and it is kind of absurd that at a time in our lives where we are encouraged to be individuals, to have our own identities. That's when we're children, where we can feel free to be different and not have the whole world judge us for it. You know, these girls at like the height of all this choose to ignore all that and try and fit in as best they possibly can by hiring consultants who are going to tell them how to essentially be seen and not heard. So this woman with alopecia is talking about all this, and it just ultimately doesn't work. It's kind of self-serving. It's like self-indulgent. And it's very obviously like a smoke screen, because Greek life at the University of Alabama is notoriously secretive, as is a lot of Greek life at universities across the country. And I think that's why they chose Alabama as the subject of this documentary, because of this TikTok hashtag Bama Rush thing that everybody was following. So they chose UA as like the as the stand-in for it. And it is very obvious that you know, this woman was not going to be able to get access to the Greek organization. She wasn't going to be able to go inside of the sorority houses, and she probably could have, but you know, she just, I think it was like ultimately kind of laziness a little bit, and just choosing not to do that. And also incredibly deceptive too. At one point, she kind of throws a pity party for herself, this director in this documentary. She talks about how like everybody at Alabama is going on social media to lambaste her film crew and encourage people not to talk to them because HBO's in town, you know, making a documentary about Bama Rush, you know, and they're here to just discredit us. And yeah, of course, like, you know, the South has a long reputation of, ever since the Reconstruction era, of not letting in, you know, Yankees, you know, these carpetbaggers coming in to judge them and tell them what to do and disparage them. So yeah, she talks about how there's all these rumors that people circulate that she's like planting wires on people and planting microphones on these sorority recruits to go inside the sorority houses and secretly film and everything. And this filmmaker tells us that she can't do that logistically. She can't put microphones on and cameras on these girls and logistically get any audio or video that's in good enough resolution to show everybody what goes on inside them. And it's like, just tell us that you don't want to do that. Don't say that logistically you couldn't do it, because logistically you could do it. Documentary filmmakers have been filming secretly inside crowded places like sorority houses for a very, very long time. It's really not that difficult. So I don't know what she was talking about, but yeah, at one point she kind of continues to throw a pity party for herself by saying that, I just need to blend in Alabama. I don't want people just passing me, a bald woman, on the road and throwing bottles at me because they know that a bald woman is in town making a documentary about Greek life. So in order to blend in, she then reverts back to her childhood self and puts a wig on. But she never films herself walking around with a wig in Tuscaloosa, where the University of Alabama is. It's like she just has a shot of herself putting a wig on. So I guess now we're supposed to feel sorry for her, because she's having to do just like these girls do and blend in and ignore her identity. And then at the end of the movie, there's like a scene where like a hopeful scene where she takes the wig off, but she doesn't do it in public and let everybody see her, like bravely taking the wig off. She does it in the privacy of her own car with a dash cam. It's just, I don't know. I would not recommend watching this movie unless you kind of want to see like a very self-indulgent filmmaker make a documentary about things that everybody already knows about. There's a much better documentary I think that could be made about The Machine. And actually there is a 4-part documentary that has been made about The Machine as a podcast. And I can post the link to that in the show notes if you're interested. But it was hosted by John Archibald, who's a Pulitzer Prize winning columnist for AL.com, formerly the Birmingham News. So, yeah, that's fun. Other Alabama news there. My cigar's gone out once more. So I was going back and forth about whether or not I wanted to come and sit on the porch and have a cigar, go home and take a nap. I didn't get a lot of sleep last night. And I don't know, occasionally I'll have that, just like nights where I just cannot get to sleep for whatever reason. I had a very busy day yesterday, just teaching summer camp and then going and just being utterly exhausted at the table full of theater people. And like just last night I just couldn't get to sleep, and kind of kept going back and forth about what I wanted to do. There's a certain point when you are just laying in bed trying to get to sleep and you just realize that you're not tired, and you can't really just lay there in bed, because then you just suddenly kind of start to get overwhelmed by thoughts. And so you just have to make the decision to try and get up and just maybe put on a movie or read a book or something like that. And I got up last night and I was going back and forth between playing a video game and watching a movie. And I haven't played a video game in a very long time. I usually do not play video games anymore. It just is something that whenever I'm playing a video game, I just kind of feel like I should be doing something else with my time. I don't know. Pretty much the only time I ever play video games anymore is when I'm with my friends, and we'll play like, we have like a round of games that we play. We usually play like Trivial Pursuit, or we play Mario Party. But yeah, last night I wanted to just turn on the Xbox and just see what games were out there that I may be interested in. I usually like, I usually like those games like Grand Theft Auto or Red Dead Redemption. You know, these games where we kind of like just go into like a fabricated world and you just go around like getting into adventures. Sir? Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. It's good. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's what I'm having. I don't have one on me. No, this is the only one I've got. Yeah. Oh, wow. That's... I gotta get a house with a private porch. I don't know. I don't mind it when people come up to me and talk to me. But that guy who was just... He was talking about how he just asked me for a cigar. And... God damn. Jesus Christ. Where was I? Yeah, I usually like playing games where it's like these fabricated worlds that kind of look like the world that I just go around in every day, you know, like a city like in Grand Theft Auto or like the country like in Red Dead Redemption. You know. And so, yeah, I saw this game last night called Mafia 3, which takes place in like New Orleans in like the late 60s. And you play like a Vietnam veteran who comes home and your family is like in debt to the mob. So I think the story is that you help this local mob boss like rob a bank to alleviate your family's debt, but you end up getting betrayed, and then it kind of goes from there. It's like an open world game, and very much like just I love just the South, you know, when it's depicted in games, and especially like just southern cities like New Orleans or, you know, just the bayou. They had some places like that in Red Dead Redemption. Like you go to this like fake version of New Orleans called Saint Denis. But it takes place in like the early 1900s. But yeah, this one was like New Orleans in the late 60s. And so I was like, yeah, I'm down for that. I want to play that. So yeah, I bought the game. It was like $23. It's like the price was right. And it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I was ready to play it. And then I hit download and it was like 7 hours. Oh man. So 7 hours to download. So I was like, okay, I guess I'm not playing this tonight, but I've got it loaded up on my Xbox. It should be ready about now. I could probably go and play it when I get done with this. Or I'll probably go out and deliver food for a little while, and then I'll have that to look forward to when I get home tonight. Mafia 3. So, yeah. So, I couldn't play that. So then I was like channel surfing for a little while, and this movie came on. It was like Snake Eyes with Nicolas Cage that I hadn't seen in a very long time, but I really like that movie. I think that's like an underrated movie. It came out like in 1999. It was directed by Brian De Palma. who's probably one of the really great 70s filmmakers. You know, he did movies like Carrie, and probably one of my favorite movies of all time he did, called Blow Up with Blow Out with John Travolta. It's like a parody of the film Blow Up by who did that? Antonini and Michelangelo. I don't know, something Italian. Antonioni, right? And yeah, Blowout is one of those movies that just like makes you love sound so much, just the art of manipulating sound. It's one of those movies that, like, just having worked with audio a little bit and just done podcasting for so long, I love Blowout. But yeah, Brian De Palma just like directs some pretty good thrillers, just like very simple movies. Just putting a character into a situation and where everybody is kind of conspiring against him to commit a crime and kill him because he's the only one who like knows what's going on. So yeah, Snake Eyes is one of those movies that's very easy to kind of laugh at as like a cheesy bad movie, because it's got Nicolas Cage and kind of the height of Nicolas Cage overacting. Everything that Nicolas Cage does in that movie is just elevated and over the top, and really not at all like a human being in the situation he's in would behave like. But at the same time, that's one of the things that makes it fun. You know, Nicolas Cage is just such an over-the-top actor, and people love watching the guy, even though he's just hams it up all the time. He's not at all one of those realistic, naturalistic actors like, you know, like you would have had in like the 70s, like Gene Hackman or somebody like that. So he's just a complete antithesis of that. But you nevertheless cannot help watching him. But yeah, Snake Eyes, when it first came out, I remember I was working my first job ever at the Dollar movie theater in 1999, and Snake Eyes was playing. I don't think I saw it in the theater. I don't think that I saw it in the theater because I remember reading Roger Ebert's review, and just Roger Ebert's reviews were just like sacrosanct. That there's a movie that you really wanted to see and you really wanted it to be good. If Roger Ebert didn't like it, you just kind of felt shitty. Like you felt bad for the filmmaker, you know? Because I mean, just Roger Ebert was just so credentialed. It's like Pulitzer Prize winning film reviewer, and just watching him with Gene Siskel every week, it was just really the sole authority about whether or not you enjoyed a movie. And a lot of times, if a movie you were kind of on the fences about it, like maybe I'll see it, maybe I won't. If Roger Ebert didn't like it, you didn't go see it. You may have seen it, but under kind of specific circumstances, like your friends were going to see it or something. Or it's just a movie that you just didn't care about one way or the other, whether or not it was good. But Snake Eyes, I remember Roger Ebert giving it a 1-star review. And so I did not see it when it came out. And I don't think I did, at least. And then I ended up watching it, I think, on video a couple years later, just renting it. And thinking to myself at the time, this is kind of a good movie. Like, yeah, it's a little bit over the top with Nicolas Cage. And some of its plot twists are kind of goofy. But watching it again last night, I was like, this is a great movie. It's, so like Nicolas Cage plays like this corrupt cop in Atlantic City, New Jersey. And the whole movie takes place in one night. I always love movies that take place just in a very limited amount of time, usually like in real time almost. He plays like this corrupt cop, and his best friend is Gary Sinise, who is like this military. He's like a military liaison or something. But they're at this fight, like this boxing match at a casino in Atlantic City. And halfway through the fight, there's like these shots, and this guy gets assassinated who turns out to be like the Secretary of Defense. And Nicolas Cage, like in the middle of all the chaos, because the guy's assassinated right in the middle of the fight when the boxer in the arena, he's like knocked out. And Nicolas Cage like notices that the boxer in the ensuing chaos, who's just been knocked out and should be unconscious, actually like flinches. And so it suddenly makes Nicolas Cage think, is there a conspiracy going on here? Did this guy get paid to take a dive to facilitate a bunch of chaos so that people would be looking the other way while the assassin got away or something? And so Nicolas Cage kind of has to spend the entire movie like investigating what's going on. And yeah, it's just a movie that's like done with like a lot of style in a way that a lot of movies are not done. At least like in the late 90s. It's just like this very traditional kind of like 1950s, 1960s type thriller. Where the only thing that's at stake in the movie is just like whether or not the guy is going to survive. You know, it's like, is Nicolas Cage going to survive this group of conspirators and expose the plot? You know, it's very much kind of like The Manchurian Candidate, or, you know, just like a very classic Hollywood thriller. And just the camera work, the cinematography in it's really good. It's got like these, like at one point, one of these character witnesses is like in a bathroom in a hotel, and Nicolas Cage is trying to find her, but he's got to go through all these different rooms, and so the camera kind of goes above the rooms and sort of goes over the wall, so you get to see like all these different things that are happening in these different hotel rooms in this casino. It's like there's all these frat guys having a party in one room. There's like another guy who's just like falling asleep to the TV, you know, on the bed in the next room, and it's just really cool. And yeah, the opening shot of the movie is like 12 minutes long or something like that. It's just like one long continuous shot of Nicolas Cage just walking through this boxing arena on his way to see the fight. And the shot ends when the guy is assassinated. So it takes you all the way up to, it sets up everything. And then when like the inciting incident of the film happens, that's when the shot ends and the movie starts. How's it going? So, yeah, just I watched that movie last night at about 2:30 instead of playing a video game, and I'm glad I did. I was intending just to put it on and kind of go to sleep to it, but I ended up watching the whole movie. So, it's also got this really weird thing, and I don't know, maybe you know of other movies that do this. Maybe you can let me know, but it's got this one weird thing. The actor Kevin Dunn is in the movie. You know, this character actor who's been in movies since like the 80s. You know, kind of like this paunchy kind of guy. He was in Veep, the show that came on HBO a while back. He played the one of Julia Louis-Dreyfus's minions. So Kevin Dunn, the actor, is in Snake Eyes. He plays like a newspaper reporter, or a journalist, and a television journalist, actually. So his name is Kevin Dunn, and Gary Sinise's character in the movie, his name is Kevin Dunn. So are there any other movies out there where it's like there's an actor in the movie, and in the movie there's also a character that has that actor's name? I don't know. That's the only movie I can think of. But yeah, Kevin Dunn, the actor, and Gary Sinise playing Kevin Dunn, the military liaison. I don't know. So yeah, this has been kind of a fun time sitting out here for like the last hour and a half. There's people coming in. Just got an email notification. I had to return some things to Amazon this week and had to like go to Whole Foods to do that. And they just issued me a refund. So that's nice. That was another errand I had to do today that I wouldn't have done in the days of COVID. I have to stay inside. Yeah. So yeah, that's what's going on this week. Thank you so much for joining me here on the Midnight Citizen Show. I'm going to enjoy the rest of my cigar and get on with my week. I'll see you next time here on the Midnight Citizen Show. Keep your eyes open.